I want to do one more. I've done a lot in a row, but I want to do one more about the milk industry. I don't know if you'll remember this, but maybe 10 years ago, and the guy I'm doing this for specifically will remember Gammon's Grocery. Uh, I remember this when it was Gammon's Grocery, and so it's been maybe 10 years ago. But a while back, somewhere in that time period, there was a big deal about the price of milk. And milk went up overnight, something like 75 cents or $1 a gallon. And I remember seeing the signs posted uh, in Gammon's Grocery for some reason. Our suppliers have raised our prices on milk. And it was universal, it was everywhere. And since I've been doing a lot of reading, I came across somebody that talked about this phenomenon and why it was. Back in the Depression. Now, in this story, you need to substitute gas for every time I say the word milk. Okay? At least in concept. But in this story, during the Depression, it was hard for moms to feed their babies. The government made a determination that babies had to have milk. There was no choice. People had to have milk. People were raising the price on milk, and it was unjustified. They set a price cap on the price of milk and told producers of milk and farmers that they could not charge more than a certain amount for milk. And so that wasn't so bad in the first few years, but as inflation rose and it cost more to produce milk, but the actual realized price of milk remained the same, this was the actual realized price of milk. And if you were to see and this, let's see, a downward line, I'm making a downward line, but I don't know where you want to look down. But at any rate, the price of milk adjusted for inflation steadily went down, right? That makes sense. The nominal price, what we call the nominal price, the realized price, stayed the same, yet inflation was going up. So that made the real price, which is the prices adjusted for inflation, go down. And this went on from the 1940s till 2000 or so. And so you've got this squeeze where the profit margin for milk producers was smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, what happens when profits get small? It's easy to know that large profits induce new entrants into the business because people want to rush in and capitalize on those profits. What happens when margins are small in an industry? Producers drop out. So this began to happen. Finally, real prices, what the market would have paid, market prices, were so far above what the realized prices were for milk producers. So many milk producers went out of business and dropped out of business that the government finally had to wake up and admit they had made a mistake. And in this year I'm talking about, when prices jumped up on milk, the government finally reversed the price caps on milk. They allowed a free market for milk, and immediately the price went up. And now the government is actually paying people to re-enter into the milk field and start up dairies that their families had left behind, buy old dairy farms, and they're begging people left and right to get back into the milk industry they're finally allowing them to realize profits, plus they're paying them to go into the industry. There are programs now for young farmers to go into the milk industry. They'll set you up, they'll buy your equipment and everything. Why? Why did they have to do that? Because of a price cap on milk. Milk was a necessity. People couldn't do without milk. It was cruel to allow people to charge high prices for milk. But what happened? Over 60 years, this thing that was so benevolent, that was protecting so many people, drove so many people out of producing milk that they couldn't even bring enough supply to the market. Producers couldn't make any money. Producers were dropping out left and right. So the government finally wised up, took off the price cap, and is incentivizing new providers into the market. Now, what they've probably done is raise the cap, in all honesty. What they've probably done is raise the cap, and there's a new cap, but it's a little bit closer. If a free market were to exist in milk, people would rush in to supply to meet the demand, because the profit would be reasonably high to justify them coming in and providing it. And eventually, although price immediately skyrocketed, like we saw, and it was an overnight deal. We saw prices immediately skyrocket by $1 or so a gallon. Eventually, suppliers would come in to meet that demand. Competition amongst suppliers would eventually bring the price down back to a market price that is fair or even below what it was before. But what happens? See, we say it's so cruel. It's a necessity. People have to have it. But we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. And I guarantee you, if we put such a similar price cap on gasoline, this will happen. And it's already happened in the Nixon years. It's already happened. We can't learn from our mistakes in this country. It's already happened. And people say, oh, but dairy farmers are just little old regular guys. These gasoline guys, they're billionaires and millionaires making millions and billions of dollars of profit. They're greedy. While the other man, the milkman's just trying to make money for his family. Well, if they're greedy, that's even more reason to allow the market to set the price rather than a price cap or some other such instrument to be used to set the price. Because if they're greedy, if the oil man is the greediest of all greedies, then he's going to drop out quicker than the milkman. The milkman just loves everybody. That's why he's producing milk. But we all admit the oil man's in there just to make money. So you start tapping into his profits a little bit, he's going to be out of there quicker than the milkman, because the milkman only provides his product because he's full of love for the world. He doesn't want to make any money, of course. But now the old man, he does. So the old man's going to be out of there quicker. The old man is going to be out of there quicker than the milkman. So it would take even less of an interference into his profits for him to jet out of there. But yet somehow taxation, somehow we want to limit his prices. Somehow we want to put price caps. He's going to be out of there in a heartbeat because he's greedy, just like you say he's greedy. I agree with you, he's greedy. He's going to be out of there. What happens when suppliers start dropping out of the market? Price goes up. Now we can keep an artificial price cap on it for a while, but when the thing is unleashed and the real market price is allowed to be realized, it's going to shoot up, just like milk prices do, until we allow people to realize the profits they think they ought to realize and the market can agree upon, and then competition will come in and bring it back down. And we haven't learned from gas, we haven't learned from milk, and we'll never learn, but we ought to study it.